Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and it's the 228th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away, I'd like to say that this battle was supplied by Brotherhood member Kendi, and I think this could be one of the oldest battles we've ever put onto our channel. I looked at the army and formation that I used in this battle, and I don't think I've used that for 9 to 10 years. So this is a very, very old battle. And the first teammate is Brotherhood member Kendi, as I said, who supplied this battle. And I'd just like to draw your attention to his army. If you notice that he has bought, his cavalry consists of light cavalry units called equites. And these are fast moving, as I say, light cavalry. And as you know, the Brotherhood were renowned for bringing big, heavy cavalry all the time to their battles. So I remember when Kendi first showed up with these equites, we were kind of like absolutely almost astounded to see that he'd bought them. As I say, up to this stage of RTW, the Brotherhood always used to bring like maybe 6 heavy cavalry to every battle. So these light cavalry really were, you know, a new thing for us to see. So it'll be interesting to see how well Kendi uses them during the course of the battle. See if he makes a use of their the best use of their speed. It should be interesting to see. But of course, by buying cheap cavalry, the light cavalry, this leaves him more money to put on his infantry. Now, if you look at these infantry units, he's got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So these infantry are really tough. You know, as we know, urban cohorts are the elite Roman units, but putting those massive upgrades on them, that's going to make these infantry units incredibly difficult to kill. And if you notice, his generals also got 8 upgrades on as well. So that's Kendi's army for this particular battle. As I say, this battle is probably about 9 years old, I would think, and one of the oldest we've ever put onto our YouTube channel. I see he's got 5 equites there. Their next teammate is King's member Marcus. He still plays RTW. Some of you, a lot of veterans will know Marcus, but newer players might not see him on RTW that much, but he does still play. And look at the upgrades on his infantry. Can you see he's got 7 upgrades? That's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. Let's say these older battles, these are the type of upgrades we used to bring on our infantry up to, you know, 9 or 10 years ago. So there's his army there. Looks quite effective to me. As I say, looking at these armies, they are all kind of old-fashioned armies, if you like, but still really good for their time. And then the third teammate is Optimus Prime. Now, I got a feeling this is Cor's leader. A lot of you know the Cor clan. Cor's leader, Prime. You know, a lot of you know Prime. And I think that he was just messing around with his name for this battle and calling himself Optimus Prime. But so there you go, there's the team there. And as I say, they're quite old-fashioned armies, and that's what's making me think this battle's probably at least 9 years old. Should be a good one for you to watch. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Spearman. Now, a lot of RTW veterans remember Spearman, really great player of his day. And if you notice, he's bought 4 archers, 4 cavalry to this particular battle. Now, 9, 10 years ago and older than that, we always used to bring 3 or 4 archers. So as I say, I think this battle's about 9 years old, and that is probably an older army than that he's actually bought to this this battlefield, as we were starting to see the decline in bringing archers at that stage. Then our next teammate, now I believe this is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks. He's called himself Steve in this battle, but I believe it is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks, and he has an experimental Seleucid army here. So it'll be interesting to see how well he does with this. As you can see, he's only got 5 pike units, silver shield pike units, and he's got 2 silver shield legionnaire units for his polar shield units at the front of his pikemen there. As you can see there's the silver shield legionnaires. And then if you notice, he's bought I think it's 5 archers. Now the Seleucid archers are only short range, but he's bought 5 of them, probably to give his pikemen archer cover there. As you know, they're very susceptible to archer damage. Now we move on to the infamous cataphract cavalry. If you notice, he's got 8 upgrades on those cataphract cavalry, so that's 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. Remember what we call these guys? The tanks of the ancient world, because they're armoured from head to toe, and make no mistake, they can be battle changing troops. And then here's a unit that we don't often see in any of our battles, and that's elephants. I think Steve actually, because this was an experimental army, checked it with all of us, and we said, yeah, bring in an LE unit just to see, so, you know, just something a bit different really. And if you notice that each elephant unit has got archers on, so those archers are firing all the time during the course of the battle. But if you want the elephants to charge, you have to what we call alt attack, and then those armoured elephants will attack, and they are quite a tough unit. So there's a bit of a look at it. As I say, I think this might be the only battle we've ever showed out of 228 that's got an elephant unit in it. And as I say, this was an experimental army that I think Steve was trying at this time. And as you said, to bring an LE unit is very unusual in our battles there. So it'd be interesting to see how well the elephant unit does. But just to emphasise to everybody, this was an experimental army that Steve brought to this particular battle. So as I say, with experiments, you don't know what happens till you actually try them. And then the third teammate is myself, Spartan Commander. Now, just like to say, look at the formation of my infantry. When was the last time you've seen me with a wide formation like that instead of a formation in depth? So that's what makes me feel that this battle was 9 years or maybe even older than that, because I haven't used an army like that. I've only got 11 infantry units and a wide formation, and I haven't used that for years and years. So that just goes to show how old this battle is. As you can see, it's a wide formation, but makes it susceptible to heavy cavalry damage that can charge right through a thin line like that. If you notice the upgrades I've got on my infantry, can you see I've got 7 upgrades? So that's an experienced stripe, gold shield, gold attack on that infantry there. And as I say, this is just showing you one of, if you like, a very old-fashioned army from about, as I said, 9 years ago or maybe even older. 1 archer unit I've got there, and I've got 5 cavalry units. So it should be interesting to see how all these kind of old armies do from about 9 years or more ago on the to modern day viewers. Okay, right from the very, very early stage of the battle here, can you see that Ken is bringing his fast-moving equites over to our left flank there. It's kind of like a bit of psychological warfare using these cavalry, because he knows that we can't catch that cavalry with the cavalry we've got, because we've only got heavy, slow-moving cavalry in comparison. So we've always got to keep an eye on his cavalry. So we're not just watching the front, what's happening to the front of our armies, but we've always got to keep an eye on what his cavalry is doing round behind us. And it looks to me like he's going to make the most of those fast-moving cavalry there. As you can see, this is a very early stage of the battle here. We're just all kind of forming up and kind of squaring up to each other here. See, what Kendi would like to do with those fast-moving cavalry is get into our archers. Remember, Steve's got about 5 archer units there. He'd love to get those cavalry attacking those archers if he could. And as I say, this is a very early stage of the battle, and we're just kind of just squaring up to each other here. If you notice that, I think it's Marcus is moving some cavalry out there to support Kendi's fast-moving equites over on our left flank. I see Spearman is engaging First Prime's archers with his. As I say, that Optimus Prime, I got a feeling is Corps leader First Prime there, and he's just messed around with his name for this particular battle. But this is what we always used to do. It used to be, years ago, it used to be the archer battle first, where both teams bought loads of archers, and then we'd fire, everybody would shoot at each other with their archers, and then the winning team with the archers then would pull their archers back behind their infantry, and then the main battle would kind of start. I don't know why we did it that way, but that was the kind of way that we used to do it. So as you can see here, First Prime's moving his, or Optimus Prime is moving his infantry forward towards Spearman. But if you notice, can you see Marcus's cavalry is heading towards Steve's archers there? Nice little surgical hit there. Now I reckon he's going to rout those Seleucid archers. They haven't got a lot of good morale there, and when that cavalry hits, there you go, nice little hit there by Marcus's cavalry. Routed both of those Seleucid archer units there. Let's say it's kind of like a surgical strike. He just went for those archers. That's the type of target that Kendi would like to go for with his fast-moving cavalry there. First Prime was always renowned for his attacking kind of tactic, so it'll be interesting to see what happens on that right flank. As you can see there, can you see that Kendi's moving those cavalry, those light cavalry, further around to the left behind us over there. If you notice, he suffered some casualties from my archers. I've targeted those cavalry with my archers there, and if you notice, you can see some dead equities on the ground there that those archers did, making him pull his cavalry back. Those equities would be very susceptible to archer damage as they're light cavalry. So if you notice here, Marcus is charging in another cavalry unit there, trying to take my archers out. But I've managed to counter that attack with my cavalry there. But as I say, in this battle, this old-fashioned army of mine's only got 11 infantry units in. Yet they've got good upgrades, so it'll be interesting to see how well they do during the course of the battle. And I know a lot of you like to watch our older battles, and as I said, I think this is possibly one of the oldest ones we've ever put on. So I hope you enjoy it. And I think it's nice for all of you newer players to RTW to see how we used to fight our battles all those years ago. Well, as you can see there, Steve's experimental army, Seleucid army there in the centre. Looks quite solid at the moment. You can see Marcus's cavalry there once again trying to get my archers. And once again, that's been routed there. Right, let's just pause the game for a second to take stock of exactly what's going on. Over here on our left flank, you can see not a lot going on, just a bit of skirmishing with cavalry and things like that. In the centre here, you can see that Marcus has started his attack on Steve's experimental Seleucid army there. As I say, Steve's only got 5 pike units and 2 legionnaires, so he's only got 7 infantry there in our centre. So it'll be interesting to see how well they do. I mean, well, over on our right flank here, you can see that Spearman and Prime's armors are just in a bit of a skirmish there at the over on that flank. Just like to draw your attention to Optimus Prime's, or First Prime's cavalry here. Can you see he's got 8 upgrades? So that's 2 experienced stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So those cavalry we know are going to be extremely tough when he actually decides to send them in. So that'll be interesting to see. See how well he uses those. Right, if you notice, can you see the Julii cavalry? I think that's Spearman's Julii cavalry there. He's charging in at an angle there, trying to rout the attacking Scipii unit there. And if you notice now that First Prime is moving his Scipii, or Optimus Prime is moving his Scipii army forward there towards Spearman's Julii army. But in the centre there, you can see that Marcus is gradually turning up the pressure on Steve's experimental Seleucid army there. Over here, as I said, between Prime and Spearman, there's a lot of pilot exchanging going on here. I say both Spearman and Prime were very aggressive players there, so that's where I'm thinking it's going to kick off. But I think Marcus has spotted, obviously, that Steve's only got 7 infantry, 5 pikes, 2 legionnaires there, and I think he's going to try and, as I say, turn the pressure up a little bit on Steve's army there. Meanwhile, over on our left flank here, you can see that my our red Julii army is facing Kendi's Brutii army there. Remember, we had a look at the upgrades on both armies. There's lots of good upgrades on this infantry, so it should be an interesting tussle on this left flank. Lots of pilot exchanging going on at the moment, I think, here on this left flank. If you notice, Steve's brought his cataphract tank cavalry forward, and the elephant unit is there as well. Right, let's just pause the game for a second to take stock exactly what's happening. Now, this is one thing I wanted to show you. This is what Kendi developed his tactics with equities as the years went on. He chases down routing units. Remember, we've talked about making sure you chase down routing units, not to let them rally and come back and kind of bite you in the butt. Well, that's one thing that Kendi did with those fast-moving equities. He always used to chase down the routers and make sure they could never return to the battlefield. As you can see here, can you see that the enemy are shooting fire arrows onto Steve's Ellis? Well, fire arrows kind of spread panic with elephants and can make them run amok. Remember, if a unit runs amok, it can kill both friend and foe alike. So that's what the enemy are trying to do. They're firing shooting loads of fire arrows at Steve's Ellis. They're trying to make them panic and run amok. But as I say, in the centre there, you can see that Marcus is gradually turning the pressure up on Steve's experimental Seleucid army. There's a general overview there. As you can see, Steve sent a lot of his cavalry, those cataphract tank cavalry, into to try and take a bit of pressure off of his infantry. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening. And as you can see here on our left flank, can you see Kendi is gradually turning the pressure up on my infantry. Now, as I say, if you notice, I've got that old-fashioned wide formation there, not in depth, so that formation is very susceptible to kind of cavalry charges. Right, if you notice, I just charged my cavalry in there, once again trying to take a bit of pressure off my infantry. But if you notice that Kendi's units at the rear there threw in loads of pilers, probably cost my cavalry quite a few casualties there. Right, just pause the game for a second. Right, in the centre here, can you see that Steve's brought his elephants in, attacking Marcus is blue Scipii Rome army there with those elephants there. Remember, even though Steve's alt attacked with those elephants, making them charge into the enemy, the archers on the back of the elephants are still firing arrows as well. So you've kind of got a double attack with Ellie units there. But Steve's infantry looks like they're under a hell of a lot of pressure there as well. So I just hope that combination of Steve's elephants and cataphract cavalry manages to hold in the centre, because having the centre break of your battle line is one of the worst things that can happen to your team there. I think Kendi had about 3 or 4 more infantry units than me. And as I say, he's adapted the in-depth formation. Right, can you see Steve is charging his elephants over now to help me out? As those elephants go down Kendi's ranks, can you see them throwing Kendi's legionnaires up into the air there as they crash through Kendi's ranks? And if you notice, I've done a charge with my cavalry, so it's kind of like a bit of a hammer and anvil attack there from both flanks. The elephants coming in from one, my cavalry coming in from the other, and my infantry fighting in the middle there. But remember that Kendi's got fantastic upgrades on that infantry. So those experienced stripes on that infantry is going to make them hold. If all his infantry were just gold, I think that could have started a mass rout there of his army. So just goes to show how well an army does when it's got experienced stripes on it. Now, if you notice, Steve's charged his elephants back over to help his infantry in the centre. But if you notice, most of Steve's infantry has started to rout now. I think Optimus Prime has just charged those massively upgraded cavalry into the centre as well. And Spearman is still facing Prime on this right flank. But my guess is when Spearman sees what's happening in the centre, he'll probably start moving his infantry over to the centre there to try and shore our centre up there against that Marcus's infantry and cavalry attack and first Prime's cavalry that's charged in there. But as I say, over here on the left flank, if Kendi just had gold on his infantry, I'm sure with that, my cavalry and elephant attack there, most of his units would have routed, but a lot of them have held. As you can see here, Steve's charging his elephants once again into Marcus's blue Scipii units there, throwing his legionnaires up in the air as they attack. If you notice that Optimus Prime with those really well upgraded cavalry have charged into the flank of my Julii infantry now as well. So not only am I contending with Kendi's well upgraded infantry in front of me, I've got the enemy Scipii cavalry coming into my flank as well. Notice I'm charging the remnants of my cavalry battle damage units into Kendi's green Brutii infantry there, and then you can see the Scipii cavalry charging into the rear of my units. Well done to Steve bringing his Seleucid cataphract cavalry over to help, and I've brought my cavalry back out and charged into that Scipii cavalry. Right, let's just pause the game for a second to see exactly what's happening here. As you can see, Steve's cavalry is still doing quite well, the cataphract cavalry. As you can see, my Red Julii army still engaged with Kendi's Brutii army here. And like we said, you see that Spearman's brought his army over from the right flank to try and shore up our centre, but that's now allowing Optimus Prime to bring his Scipio infantry in from our right now to attack Spearman. If you notice here, Steve's Ellie's unit now is running amok. Can you see the red banner going on and off above the elephant? That's a sign that the elephant unit is now running amok, and that elephant unit will be killing friend and foe alike, and will become a menace on the battlefield to everybody there. So that's why a lot of people tend not to bring elephants to battles, is because it's always a bit of a kind of a worry whether they're going to run amok and kill friend and foe alike here. You can see Kendi's general still alive, plus he's got all that well upgraded infantry. So that Brutii army is extremely tough to kill. If you notice that Spearman's bringing over some of his archer units over to this flank as well. Notice the fantastic team play by Spearman here. He's moved his army over to the centre to try and shore up the centre. He's sending archer units. He sent his cavalry units over to help over on this flank as well. Great team player Spearman was, and it's kind of shame he doesn't play RTW anymore. Really great player of his day. If you notice that Steve's brought his Seleucid tank cavalry in behind Kendi's engaged infantry, but Kendi's infantry is so well upgraded, see how well that it holds. And as I say, he's still got his general there, giving morale to his troops. But poor old Spearman here now, he's trying to hold the centre and the right flank with his infantry, but I think there's just too many numbers. And if you notice, can you see Kendi bringing in that light cavalry that he's been holding at the back, and bang as that cavalry charges in. And luckily I've got some good upgrades on my infantry as well, so that stopped them from routing. But once again, if I just had gold on my infantry there, I think with them being tired, being engaged, being hit by that cavalry from behind, they would have routed. So once again, just to say, the experience stripe you put on your infantry really can make a difference, especially towards the end of the battle, when most troops are tired or maybe even exhausted. That stripe seems to keep them fighting even longer. Ken is using those fast-moving light equites extremely well here.
The gods have filled the heart of the enemy general with fear. Now he flees the field like a coward.
And this left flank seems to be, well, it's probably to and fro on this left flank, but over in the centre you can see that that Spearman now is starting to get units routing there with a massive amount of Marcus's infantry and the Optimus Prime's infantry smashing into him as well there. So
the enemy general is running away. This is no way for a leader.
There you are. You can see that unit of equites just charged in there and routed Spearman's archers. And now if you notice that we're starting to get a mass rout of our Julii army there.
The enemy's hearts are full of fear, and now they flee.
As I say, I think this battle is probably one of the oldest we've ever put onto our YouTube channel. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 9 years or older. And I know a lot of you like to see our our older battles just as a matter of interest, to see how we used to fight them all those years ago. And as I say, for Steve to bring an elephant unit there, as I say, that was a completely experimental Seleucid army that he bought there. I don't think he'd used Seleucid before, so I thought that elephant unit was interesting, watching how well it was attacking there. I was just thinking if he was allowed to bring 2 or 3 elephant units, that might have changed things a little bit there. As you can see, for a 3v3, it's a really spread out battle. Can you see in the centre area there, it didn't seem to be so intense with the dead bodies, but if you look right out to our right flank, you can see that, as I say, it's only a 3v3, but it's an extremely spread out battle there, right from there all the way across. I've seen 4v4s that have been having a more narrow battlefield than that. So it just goes to show how intense, if you like, and how spread out the battle was. As I say, it was quite fun seeing that experimental Seleucid army. It was good to see. I thought an Ellie unit. I think out of our 228 battles we've put on, that might be the only game we've ever put on showing an elephant unit there. So it was quite interesting. And you can see there, I think there's one elephant still running amok on the battlefield there. And I think there's just one unit of our teams or armies left there, and that's Steve's got one archer unit. That's all he's got left now. I think the rest of our armies have been routed. So really well done to the other team there. I thought they played really well. Nice aggressive tactics by them. Really well done to them. The first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game there. I thought it was a great battle to watch. Just to look at Kendy's army, I remember with those 5 equites, he's got the highest kills in the game there. So really well done to Kendy there. It'd be interesting to see the kills that those equites have. Let's just have a look at his statistics there. And if you notice, his urban cohorts did quite good with the kills they got. But if you look at the equites, look at the kills that they got. Every single unit's done well. Look, one unit's killed 210, and Kendy started to use these equites quite regularly after this battle, and he really got the hang of how to handle them and the best way to use them. And as I say, when he first brought them on the battlefield, we were all quite shocked to see this light cavalry. You know, Optimus Prime did quite well there with his kills, and King Marcus did well as well. So well done to them. If you notice, I've got the lowest kills in the game, but I was actually defending most of that battle. And if you notice, I've only got extremely small army as well. As I say, only got about 11 units, infantry units there. As I say, it's a very old-fashioned army, that. Well done to Steve, got the highest kills in our team. And well done, really nice teamwork that Spearman showed there. He was one flank, then he was trying to hold the centre, sending reinforcements over to our flank as well. Really great teamwork there by Spearman. So this is Spartan Commander saying, hope you enjoyed the battle. As I say, this is probably one of the oldest battles we ever put on our channel, and I hope you enjoyed it, and bye for now.